Before getting started with today's episode, I would like to show you I hope you can see the kind of finish that I'm looking for when polishing these little parts. So this is part of this, and the main shaft will go through this little piece. Now the inside has also been polished. I don't know if it will focus, and I don't know if you can see it. So both the inside of the piece and the outside, the one that actually spins inside this one, they have both been polished as much as I could in order to obtain the least amount of friction possible. Okay, so it was just an example. We will get on with actually getting these new curtains inside the camera and assessing whether my positioning of the second curtain is correct or not, assessing the kind of gap we get between the two curtains and what kind of adjustments we should do, if any. Alright, next step would be to reassemble this little guy. Before getting this part of the mechanism back, I will use a bit of shutter oil on this inner rim that's also been polished. This side is on top and this side is on the bottom of the camera, so the brass piece goes from the bottom and this aluminium piece goes on top. Now always the prong of the aluminium piece is opposed to the pin of the brass piece. That's one thing that you need to be careful of, and so the prong will go that way. And the other important aspect is that this sharper angled side, so it has this side. Let's put it differently. This side is parallel to this side of the square, so it's actually one line, while this side is somewhat tangent to this corner. Now the side that's parallel to the square should go towards the back of the camera, so this is in fact upside down. It should go like this, and if it goes like this, it will perfectly align with the line that I described at the disassembly stage. What I do, I just put it, fit this aluminium piece, or is it aluminium, whatever, aluminium, steel, whatever it is, fit it on top of the square, and then use either this or even better this one, because it has a flat end without the bit. Let's see if it fits. Now this one doesn't really fit, but it could fit if I used let me see. This one fits. So this is a hex key 5.0 hex key, and the idea is to get it on not on top but over this circle, so that you can Now tap on this side and get the two pieces connected again. I'll use this screwdriver, but you can also use a little hammer. All right. And I could also try to use this one. This is a 5.5. Now if I put this on top, yeah, even better. Because putting it on top means that I'm hammering on this side without touching the brass part. Good. Now we have this assembly in one piece, and I can mount it back on the body shell. I will take it apart again because I still need to paint it. It goes back in a quite obvious manner. It has two holes and two notches. Obviously the holes must align with this hole and that hole, and the notches must align with this screw and that hole. So it goes like this. And it has these two little screws. All right. And now I can get to the shutter curtains being mounted back on this bottom plate. This ribbon has been glued only partially, so this end is still unglued, so I can access the screw, because I will need to put the drum on the shaft, test it, take it out, reglue that. So actually I can reglue it without taking it out, but it's easier if it's out of of the shaft. And I will still need to lubricate it, so I would rather unscrew and rescrew that little guy a couple of times than mess it up. Okay, so this one goes here. Now, second curtain goes on top of the first curtain, and then the ribbons of the second curtain go underneath the shaft of the first curtain. So it's like an 8-figure, or figure 8. Next, I will have to get the 2 rollers on the base plate, and the shaft of the first curtain goes here, the shaft of the second curtain goes here. On top of this shaft I will need to place the 2 small rollers. This is one, this is the other, and if I remember correctly, there was also this little spacer and goes on the bottom, and now everything can go inside that hole. And now the locking nut that screws counterclockwise can be placed back in position, and I can use my little key to make it easier for me to screw it in. This part is a bit more tricky, and from my observations, sometimes these locking nuts, they actually fit one or the other. Right now I think that this one fits better on the other shaft. Yep. For some reason that I don't understand. I mean, one reason could be the fact that the machining of all these parts is Soviet. Alright. Now, it's always easier to get some tension on the rollers, otherwise everything will be floppy like this and it's very difficult to work on. So I will try to get some tension on the rollers. Oh, god damn it. Right, and now get everything back where it's supposed to be. This one goes here. That one is okay. Right, and now I have to get the correct position of this. So right now I'm only controlling the first curtain. The second curtain, meaning this one, is only controlled by the main drum. And this is the cocked position given by the limiting gear. Obviously is not in the correct position because the end of the first curtain is here. So I will have to keep this one in place, the limiting gear, take this one out, rotate it like this, and put it back. And now when I release it, it will go right about there, which is a bit too much. So in the uncocked position, so I practically can't turn it clockwise anymore. Take it out, and something like this. Now I need to keep it still. This is complicated. Make sure that the ribbons are this is a total mess. This one needs to go like this. They will self-center eventually, but usually that happens when everything is back in the camera, because right now everything moves in all directions. Right now I think I have a problem, because this should be the correct position. So this slit is to the back of the camera of this connecting piece, and the second curtain makes a gap. So there's a gap between the second curtain and the first curtain, but I will put it back inside the camera just to see if the angle of everything has a saying in it. So this is difficult to explain. I will have to get everything inside. This one should be something like this, so that prong pointing that way, because then the pin is somewhere around here, which means it points somewhere around here. It's important that it points towards the back of the camera when or in respect to this gap, and you'll see why. Okay, and now I will try to get this inside. Alright, now the two pins of the shafts must engage in the corresponding holes, and while keeping pressure on this side, keeping the drum still, you can see, I mean, I don't know if you can see, I can see right here, I can see the gap. See? There's the gap, and that's where the pin must engage. Now I know the gap is here and the pin is somewhere here, so I will have to rotate this slowly until like that, until the pin engages in that slot. And right now the shutter is back in position. All right, I will use two of the screws to keep it in place. So one goes here, and another one diagonally opposed. Okay, and now I need to increase tension on the second curtain because it's not closing. But now everything is a lot easier. So this is the second curtain. Rotate the locking nut clockwise. Turn the center shaft counterclockwise a couple of turns. Rotate the locking nut counterclockwise until it stops. And there you have it. The second curtain has closed. And right now it has gone that way enough that everything is hidden, so there is no light leaks. There are no light leaks. And amazingly, this guy has aligned with my marks. So I got it right the first try, which was absolutely pure luck. I could have gotten the meshing of the two gears, so the limiting gear and the gear on the shaft, wrong by one tooth, and this wouldn't have aligned. Alright, so right now this is cocking the shutter all the way, this is releasing, cocking, releasing, cocking, releasing. If I cock it or mimic the cocking motion just a bit, I can see how well my metal edges or metal bars align with the edges of the film gate. So right now, I'm sorry, my head is in the way, the metal edge of the first curtain, which is the second one that you see, is almost perfectly aligned with the film gate. What's most important is that the two edges are parallel to one another, not necessarily that they are also parallel with the film gate. Ideally everything should be parallel, but sometimes you don't get it that good. While the second, in order to check the second in respect to the first, you open the shutter like, I mean, you cock the shutter about here. So let's say when the metal bar aligns with this part of the body shell, and then stick your finger inside and only rotate the drum. So you keep this one still, the shaft, and you only rotate the drum. And now you can see if everything is looking good or not. I will obviously the best way to see it is looking at the gap against a light source. And right now I have a lack of parallelism, meaning that this side closes first and that side closes second. If I release the shutter and only turn the second curtain, yes, the second curtain is perfectly aligned with this one, and that is the happiest of scenarios, because that means you can shim the ribbons of the first curtain without needing to ungluing anything and gluing them back. The difference is very small, so it's not a big error, so that means I can fix it only by shimming it. Now, since the gap is larger on the lower side of the body than on the upper side, that means that this side, this ribbon, is too long and this one is too short. Alright, so this one is too short, this one is too long. If I can make this side to drag or roll up more ribbon, that would pretty much compensate for this problem. In order to do that, I have here a lot of leftovers like this one. So this is the leftover from the first curtain, and this one is a leftover, and it has pretty much the correct width. It's a bit wider than needed, but just to prove a point, it's enough. Now I will cut a small piece, something like this, and we'll see if it's enough or if it's too much. I will take it and I will stick it right here. So this is the roller that needs to be shimmed, and I will put the piece of curtain material between the roller and the ribbon itself. Okay, and now if I check the gap, it is almost perfect. So it's, let's see. No, actually it is perfect. It is perfect. What I can see is that the gap closes just a bit on the ends, but it's constant on the rest of the width of the curtains, which means the two metal bars, or one of the metal bars, I have a metal bar here but it's from a different camera, doesn't matter. So this line is not perfectly straight, it's just a bit curved, and if it's curved like it's describing concave surface, meaning that this is the concavity, the edges will touch any given straight line before the rest of the bar, and that's what's happening. It will not have any kind of effect in real life, in the real life results, but of course it's always a nice thing to have it perfect. But what is perfect? it looks very good to me. Yeah, I will just stick that piece of curtain material, and that will be that. But I'll probably do some more tests before that. No, it really looks okay. I mean, yeah, I'm happy with that. So right now I need to extract it. Alright, I will try to narrow it just a bit so I don't have any kind of flappy ends. Because it's the length and the thickness of the material that counts, not the width of the shim. So I'd rather have it a bit thinner, not thinner but narrower, than have edges that might catch on something. All right, a bit of glue. And now I need to stick it back to where it was. The only issue when you're doing this is the fact that you might get glue where you don't want it. All right. Now I'll leave it to dry, because if I roll it up, that excess glue that was smudged on the ribbon while I was, so this is the ribbon, this is the shim, it has glue on it, and I had to put it here and push it inside, so slide it inside. Obviously some glue remained here on the ribbon. I will clean that glue once I get the shutter out again to actually re-glue the second curtain on the main drum. Okay, so yeah, pretty much I kind of nailed it. Happy me. So right now, oh, by the way, don't forget that there are there's a number of shims that goes between the drum and the rollers, and between the upper roller and this part, and the bottom roller and this part. So I have like a bunch of shims here, and I think they were like 3, 4, 2 or something like that. I need to check the first video just to make sure that I'm putting them back in the correct order. Yeah, so keep that in mind, don't forget about them. What you can do regarding the correct position of this gear, so the meshing of those two bottom gears, is when you are disassembling the camera. So it's a bit late now, but just as an idea, this is the correct position. So this is the correct position of the shutter when it is uncocked. And just for reference, I have about 1.5 millimeters from the film gate to the metal bar on the first curtain, And on the second curtain, that's a bit trickier to, no, it's not. If you get the brake back in position, and now you cock the shutter, okay, this is the B mode, so the shutter is open. And when you look inside, you will see that the edge of the metal bar is approximately half a millimeter beyond the edge of the film gate. So it's all right. It's not symmetrical, but getting it symmetrical, so taking half a millimeter from there to give it on the other side would mean totally disregarding the original markings, calculations, and a lot of room for error. So yeah, that's not a good idea. All right, now that I have checked that, this is what happens when you lift your finger from the shutter release on B. The shutter snaps closed. This one I don't need anymore for the time being. Okay, so let's assume that you are opening up the camera for the first time and you want to make reference of the meshing between those two gears so that you don't fiddle around and try different combinations. So you are at the stage where you've taken off all 4 screws and everything else, connecting the shutter to the body. And now you are supposed to slowly take the shutter out. Now, assuming that you no longer have that flashing gear on the bottom that keeps this shaft connected to the bottom, which I might as well put back just to prove a point. So this is that little piece and the screw. It has no importance in what position you are putting that gear. The only thing that matters is this screw. Alright, and now you simply push on this one and wiggle the base plate a bit. Okay. See, and in theory, the meshing between those two is still there, so nothing changed. Although that's in theory. But I think in practice as well. Okay, so I will try to make a mark. So I've made a little mark here that is corresponding to this side of this part. Yeah, that's an option, but probably I'll just eyeball it and probably get it, if not the first try like this time, I'll get it the second or the third try. Is not that much of a work. All right, and now I need to re-glue the second curtain, and this is the shim. See how bad my shimming was. Well, first of all, I will clean the old one. And then I will re-glue the little shim. All right. And now I will need to glue this thing correctly, and I will let me see, I will turn this around. It looks like a big pile of mess, but it should be fine. Okay, get the double side tape out. Alright, and that is the second curtain glued back in position. And now I will have to let it sit a bit so that the glue sets and is safe, and then I will need to lubricate the shaft and the drum. Lubricate these shafts, pretty much take it out again, do it the right way and put it back together so I can have this part ready to be reassembled. Okay, and just to make things easier, I will just take it out. So this is number 2. No, actually that was number 1 and this is number 2. Alright. Alright. I'll be back after it dries. I decided not to go ahead with this part for the time being because the reassembly is not as straightforward as in other cameras like Zorki 4, Fab 2 and so on. What I will need to do is lubricate what needs to be lubricated. So I can put it back in a one piece sort of variant, and I think I'll do that and then I'll stop. So this is curtain number 2, this is curtain number 1. I will need some shutter oil here and here. So on this rim and on this one. Alright, and now I can I can glue the end of this little ribbon. Alright, and I will also have to lubricate these shafts. So one tiny little bit of oil on the top, and one on the bottom. Now I'm going to wipe the excess so that it won't smudge on my curtains. Okay, and the same for this one. Alright, now I will also lubricate the insides of these two smaller rollers because they are turning on this shaft, so they need to move very easily, but I will do that when I will when I'll be reassembling the shutter. I'm not going to do it now because on one hand I'm very hopeful that my final adjustments were precise, so I won't be needing another set of adjustments, and on the other hand, in order to get the shutter back inside the shell, I will also need to attach the wires, or at least route the wires, because the wires are going through this hole, so something like this, and they should be in place when I'll get the shutter back inside the body, because the bottom part of the wires will be fed through this cutout. So this will be something like this. If you don't get them now, you'll need to route them through the upper hole and the bottom cutout when everything is reassembled, and that's a lot shittier to do, so it's best that you do it now. I will also have to get this one in position because I can't get it through here, so it will need to be inside when I'm getting the shutter back, and that means I will have to probably get it back on the body, on the not on the body but on the bottom plate. That would be the easiest way, and that means I will have to get it here. In order to get it here, I would also have to have this spring back in position. I'll think about it. As I said earlier, this is the first Zorki 6 that I work on that has a single light shield. I've seen with double light shields, so one strip on top, one strip on the bottom, that were easily fed through this hole. But this one could only fit like this. But in order to be able to go through entirely, the bottom, so this plate, should be somewhere around here, not here. So it's gonna be a bit more tricky. I will also need to have this thing in position, and in order to have this thing, I will also need to have this thing in position. And going through the order of operations, that kind of means that I need to have the advance mechanism back in place. I will also need to have the self timer, because this one is actually the first one to get back. All right. So yeah, first and foremost is repainting these black lines. Only then I'll be able to make some more steps. I will probably start painting the lines tomorrow. I need to get some different paint, and yeah, then we can start the reassembly procedures. All right, thank you for your patience on another very long video, and I will see you in the next episode.